Okay, hi everyone. So it's SmithyQ from SmithyQ.com, and we're here with the next installment of Smithy's Greatest Losses. We're going to look at some of my old losses and some of the lessons that we can learn from them. And this one is going to be perhaps a little bit different in the sense that I haven't actually learned uh, from this loss, unfortunately. It's where the other examples, where I talked about simple tactics, mating attacks, leaving my king in the center. These are all things that I've, if not solved, I've at least gotten a lot better. Right? I no longer fall for simple discovery attacks, every other move. I don't get mated on the long diagonal very often. But this particular example is something that I still do, and it's something that I need to be constantly aware of. And the problem is that it's not so much a chess thing as it is a psychological thing. What happens is that when I find myself in a worse position, I tend to simply lash out. I get desperate. Instead of just, turtling, I try and throw a knockout punch. And sometimes that works, but more often than not, it just makes your position worse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically share two games. This one is 15 years ago. Wow. So 2005. So I was firmly an 1800 player in this correspondence chess and made this mistake. Then I'm going to share a game from just, I think it's 2 years ago, in which I'm over 2,000 in correspondence, and I still make the same type of mistake, the same psychological error. So let's take a look. So in this game, I am white. I'm just going to zip through the opening fairly quickly. All right, so I'm attacking f7. He blocks. I then play f4. So we can see instantly that I had aggression on my mind, right? This guy's hitting here. This guy's, trying to hit here. So let's try and open things up. Rawr, right? Attacking players. Woohoo. And then we'll just zip ahead a little bit. And it's in this position. So we can see my opponent, his last move is he brought his bishop back to e7. So I'm pretty happy. I just castled, and I completely missed that when he played bishop e7, that opens his queen up to the pawn. I didn't see that. I just castled. He takes a pawn. Then he moves, then he protects his queen, and everything is good. I'm simply down a pawn. Whoops, that's not very good. And so there's a couple of things that you could do in this position. But first off, let's just look at what I did. And I want you to really look at my reaction here. Is that I ended up, first, I kick his queen away. I play queen e2. Okay. And then let's start lashing out. I go f5. And then I sacrifice a piece. With the idea of here, I got this pin. Maybe something unfortunate is going to happen. But this is a complete bunk. This is awful. There's absolutely nothing here. This is playing for, it's like playing for tricks, but it's like tricks your opponent has to actively fall into. And my opponent, he attacks my queen. My queen's forced to move. He moves the knight out of the way, so now he's threatening to simply exchange rooks or, take my knight. I try and bring my knight in. And look, he's actually just improved all of his pieces. And it's, I think, one more, two more. Here it is, and here's where I finally resigned, just because, again, this bishop is on this diagonal, so there's no more pin. His knight is fully protected. I'm just down material. Not a lot's going on. And really, the important point to, what I want to emphasize is none of this is forced. I didn't need to, play this f5 and then sacrifice a piece for some dubious tactics on this long diagonal. There's no need to do any of this. In this position, I'm doing fine. In fact, I could, relatively, considering I'm down a pawn, if I could. Hello, computer? No, not f5. There we go. I could just play bishop d2, bring the rook over here. I'm fully developed. And I can pretend this is a gambit of sorts. Look, he still has two pieces that aren't developed. Let's maybe color them a different color. There we go. It's not easy for them to defend. I can get all my pieces developed. I can then try and play f5. Or maybe I could do something like this, where I try and exchange the knight, bring the queen over here, maybe get a rook lift going, and I could treat this like a dubious gambit. And the computer, it says this position is about 0. And considering I'm down a pawn, you know what? That's actually pretty good. That's not bad at all. Woohoo! Instead, right, is that I rushed it. I felt like I was doing worse, and I am down a pawn, so I am doing worse, and so I felt f5. Why? Because f5 is an aggressive, attacking move type of thing, I guess. And after h6, I don't want to retreat the knight. because then that'd be failure. And so I just sacrificed the knight, probably without even calculating, probably thinking, again, if I just retreat the knight, I'm going to be worse. Well, yeah, I'm down a pawn, but you know what? Being worse doesn't mean being lost. And so by doing this type of position, where I'm sacrificing a piece, and I got a couple pawns, but not really. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. So I'm just down a piece. I don't even have pawns. Maybe I'll win one of the pawns back. By doing this, it's giving me a small chance to win if my opponent blunders badly, but it greatly increases the chance that I lose. Whereas, in this position, c3 comes back, I play queen e2. Let's say I play the bishop d2. I bring the rook over. And you know what? Okay, maybe I lose this game, but it's certainly not obvious. My opponent really has to work for it. And it's only a pawn. Like, who cares? How many times have I won a pawn in one of my games and then not won the game? A lot. How many times have I return the pawn, it's tactics. There are so many things. And I just completely overreacted. And I do this time and time again. And to prove it, I'm going to bring up a game where, again, it was, 2 years ago. So let's look at this one. So I'm black. And just for the record, my opponent got their account closed because of computer assistance sometime after this game. So take that for what you will. But it doesn't take away from the actual lesson of this game. So my opponent, he ended up playing bishop e2, so I said, hey, let's have some fun. Knight to c6, bishop g4, and then we got a long castle over here. And so this is going to be a fun game. Look, I'm castle on one side, he's castle on the other side. I'm going to throw my pawns at him, he's going to throw his pawns at me. Hey, we're going to have a rip old roaring time. This looks great. And then what's going to actually happen is I was able to liquidate in the center. Take, 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 take. We got two more. I ended up playing bishop d6. I'm threatening mate on h2. That's always good. He plays g3. I develop my rook. Let's just look at this position. Isn't this great? I've got everything I could possibly want. I have a safe king. I got a nice, good pawn structure. Fully developed. My rook's controlled files before he does. Things are good. He then played this move, which attacks this pawn. And I spent a long time trying to figure out what I wanted to do here. The other problem in this position, so yeah, of course, that pawn is weak. But then there might be tactics here. He couldn't win the pawn, this move, right, because his queen's hanging. Whoops, that's not very good. And I might trap the bishop with b6. But by playing queen c4, right, now maybe this is a threat. Maybe knight goes to b5, he wants to take my good bishop, or he wants to invade here or here, and all of a sudden there could be a little bit of problems. And also, he's attacking my pawn. And so I'm thinking in this position, my thought process was along the lines of, I don't really care about this pawn, because if he wins it, that's only going to open a file towards his king, and that's great. The more time he spends winning pawns, it's just the more files that are open up against his king. It's his outside side castling. I probably want that, right? And so I wasn't too worried about that. I was a little bit worried about him coming in towards my king's side. And so after a pretty long think, I ended up playing a6. That's just going to stop knight b5. There's no longer a pawn there for him to win. And then I can worry about what I'm going to do next over here on the king's side. He ends up taking the pawn. I move my queen over, where I'm attacking this guy, I'm attacking this guy, and maybe, just maybe, there might be some sort of discovered threats on the queen when I move my knight. Gotta be careful, but that could be something in the air. He ended up playing king g2, h5, and it was here. This is the move that I missed. I did not see rook comes to d5. Hits my queen. I can't take it with my knight, because again, my queen, whoops, that's not very good. But also, if my queen moves, the queen and this guy they're attacking the pawn. You can come in with bishop g5, and all of a sudden, that attack, that open lines that I thought I had on the king, doesn't look obvious anymore. In fact, it's really hard to see how black's going to attack in this position. I couldn't think of anything. So then in my head, I came down to there's two possibilities. One would be queen goes back here to h7, where I'm still protecting g7. I'm still defending this pawn. Maybe I can like play some rook. But the thing is, this is an extremely passive position. It's very hard for me to ever open the h-file. Again, he's going to be able to do something like this, or this, or this. And white's got a heck of a lot of free play. White's doing very well here. He's also a pawn, so that's not very good. But I'm not losing. And if you throw this position in the computer, it gives like a modest advantage to white. White has to work really, really hard to try and win this position. Now, is white better? Yeah, white is better. But black isn't losing yet. The other possibility is this. Queen takes c2, which I could feel intuitively had to be incorrect. This can't be the right move, because I'm opening up a file for him against my king. I'm moving my queen away, and it just seems as if white is going to get so much more play. And this was kind of the whole idea that I'm thinking about here, is that this is introducing a lot more tricks into the position, where white is more likely to make a mistake. Again, if I were to bring my queen down here, okay, it's really hard for white to play a bad move. It's like he's got a good position, he's up a pawn, he's going to be able to improve his pieces, and I'm kind of hanging on for dear life. I'm not lost, but white definitely has the more fun. By taking this pawn, I'm thinking, okay, I'm giving white a chance to make a mistake now. Look, the rook is now being attacked. I'm threatening maybe this because of the pin. Maybe I can just win a whole bunch of pawns and then win the endgame, maybe. White has to be accurate. The thing is, if white is accurate, he just wins the game instantly. And especially, this is a correspondence game. This isn't bullet. This isn't blitz. My opponent has more than 30 seconds to think. And even, it's a terrible way to approach chess. If in this position I were just lost, if queen h7 was simply a losing move, white wins easily, or queen takes c2 is a losing move, white wins easily. There's a few more tricks, then queen takes c2 is the right move. But if I'm just playing for tricks by losing the game, and just watch how I lose this game all of a sudden. He brings the rook over to my queen. Okay. I win another pawn because woohoo. Might as well, have a full stomach if I'm about to lose. But we can see the problem is that now the rook is lined up against my king, which means that all of a sudden, like, this bishop isn't very protected. Boom. Tactics. Now, I saw this, and I had thought that maybe this move, rook takes e3, would have solved it. Because again, now there's a pin. Now I'm attacking this rook. If this rook moves, I'm going to attack this knight. Things are okay, maybe. But then my opponent, he saw further, or his computer saw further, I don't know. He ended up playing queen takes c2. Look at this, a beautiful queen sacrifice. Because after take, discover, check, uh-oh, boom, and that's actually checkmate. Actually, a really beautiful attack there. And we can see that attack is completely possible. Let's just back up if I can. There we go. Precisely because I took the c-pawn, which opened up that rook facing right towards my king. And this is just absolutely terrible. And one of the main problems here in this position is that if I were to take with the c-pawn, again, he can now move his knight, say to a5. He's attacking my queen. It's discovered check. That's not very good. And taking with the rook isn't very good either. Why isn't it very good? I actually think the exact same thing is possible, right? No, it's knight b5, yes. Because at knight b5, we're threatening this, we're threatening this, we're threatening this, and it's, that's just game over. This is kind of cute as well. Whoops, with the check. So, like, the chess moves and stuff, all that's great, and what have you. But the common error in both of these games is, I suppose it's a huge overreaction, is how I would characterize it. Is that in this game, I'm down a pawn, I missed one move. Okay, this is a good move. Threatening my queen, pushing me back, and I really need to go down to h7. And then again, I'm not doing very well. I'm doing worse, but I'm not losing yet. There's still quite a bit of play here. Instead, I completely overreacted. I thought I'm worse, therefore I'm losing, and so I have to do something desperate. And again, this is such a terrible thought process. It was just completely unnecessary. I made my opponent able to win a heck of a lot easier and a heck of a lot quicker. He just had to be accurate, and it's, so he had, I guess, seeing the queen sacrifice was nice. Though, of course, other moves are also okay for my opponent. It doesn't matter. So it's that thinking process, and this is something that I still do. This is, it's more pronounced in the Blitz games, of course, but I still tend to overreact wildly as soon as I get worse, or if I miss a move by my opponent. I imagine we all do this to a certain extent, especially when we miss the move, is that we start thinking, ah, right? And again, we try and throw that haymaker, when sometimes just defending, often just defending, stepping back, saying it's okay, is going to be okay. And if you look at the best players in the world, all the super grandmasters, they can be down or they can have a terrible position, and how many times do they save a draw, or how many times are they able to just fight back because they're so tenacious in defense, instead of here where I just throw it all away. So this is an extremely common error, and it's one thing to talk about it. It's one thing to recognize it. It's okay, I didn't need to be so desperate in these positions, but I found it extremely difficult to actually put into practice in my games. And as soon as, believe me, as soon as I figure out how to stop overreacting, I'll have a video or I'll have an article on my blog detailing it, because I have not solved this conundrum yet. Yeah. So this is at least one loss I haven't fully learned from. But being aware of it helps, I suppose. So that's that. Hopefully you found that helpful or useful, even if it's just me saying, here's a weakness I have and I don't know how to fix it. But I guess I don't have all the answers. Well, that's that. I hope you found that helpful. Hope you found it useful. Take care, everyone. Make sure you stay safe out there. It's interesting times, eh? Anyway, so again, check out the blog. Bye for now.